between lawful and legal?
From what I understand, the difference between lawful and legal is that lawful is common law down from God, which we are all spiritually under by the fact that we are human beings in his paradise. I don't believe these things, but I'm just saying what the kind of theory is. And legal, I understand that that's from different court cases and precedents set here and there, maybe a bit of parliament here and there. So am I right in thinking that you can fight legal cases, but if you've broken the God's law, you're fucked? My issue with this is that it raises more problems than it solves. Like, which God? Whose connection to God? Is there a God? And who's defined this as being common law and under God? The legal side, I know it's all written by men anyway. I think it's very dangerous to kind of, for people who are trying to be free men or free women on the land or in the sea or in the sky, to talk about the common law and God. I know where they're getting at, like, you know, the kind of infinite love behind all things, the unified theory of fucking, you know, the Matrix is God, everything is God. I understand where they're coming from, but common? I don't know, it smells a bit of like collectivism to me. I don't know. So for me, as an anarchist, I reject all of the system's wording, whether it's lawful under God, whether it's legal under courts. It's all just bureaucracy to tie down a person who's searching for real freedom. That's what I believe about this.
Yeah. Just add a little bit. So you fundamentally believe, which is where I'm going as well, and a lot of people go, is that really that. Because when I get into this, it's a very complicated system. When you get down to it, it's very simple. And the even simpler fact of that is that we all agree that you shouldn't go around killing people, murdering people, nothing like that. But when you get down to as simple as that, things, no one has the right to tell you what to do, basically. Yeah. No one has.
We should get John to say that's perfect.
That's
perfect.
But I think that's where you were going, wasn't it?
It is where I'm going. Like how, like a filmmaker told me 10 seconds ago. We all know that you can't go around raping and killing and murdering and invading. We don't need fucking laws for that. Like, we'll deal with that as it comes. But anything other than that, what you want to smoke, where you want to live, where you want to take a shit, who you want to insult, not a fucking other adult on this planet. Like, what are you, my dad? Are you my fucking dad telling me what to do? Like, that's how I feel now when police or, like, you know, control freaks try and give it to me. Because ultimately, let's take the Stephen Hawking's M theory approach to this for a second. Reality is only a potentiality. Like, they've had to look at nothing between two quarks inside a proton. You can't get much smaller than that. Two quarks and a proton. And the space in between, the nothing. They've analyzed it, they put sensors in, and apparently it's bubbling with enough energy to fucking wipe out the planet, that empty space. So what is man except a kind of mathematical paradox between the ever-expanding and the ever-contracting? There's a paradox, which is potentially what consciousness is. We are locking reality by perceiving it. So in essence, we're all fucking God. We're all gods. And the thought that a man in a wig or someone with a title before them because they were more successful at murdering peasants in the past, so they became royal, they became duke, became a fucking prince. The thought of other men or other women trying to tell me what to do when I'm made of exploded stars and basic elementary particles that have been existing in this universe for 13.8 billion years. And along comes a little fucking policeman trying to tell me I can't smoke a joint. No thanks. Do I believe that we are fundamentally all slaves? I'll answer that part first. No. We can't help being born. We can't help existing. From my current looking into quantum mechanics, quantum physics, the kind of real science, and this is empirical science, which has been cross-referenced, and they've looked into it, and quantum physics has withheld every test that any other competing mathematician has tried to do against it. So it's true, you know, it's mathematically true. And we've bubbled out of nothing. No one can help that. So you could argue, like, if a negative person could argue we're all slaves to existence because here we are, but you're not, because you could kill yourself. Even if you're arrested, you could starve yourself. You're not a slave to anything. In society, though, one could argue that on paper we are slaves, and I'm going to come to that in a second. But I don't think we, the three of us sat in this room, have a false perception of freedom and democracy. I think we've got quite a good one. But I think the general public, the you know, the mainstream who give the consent to the police, those people have a very skewered opinion of what freedom and democracy is. I think the people who support the Iraq War, and there's a lot of them, they see freedom and democracy, I guess, as the spread of their way of being, you know, that's freedom. Oh, those Iraqi people are not like me, I'll spread freedom, kill their kids, you know. But I have a question for, I guess, the courts, to David Cameron, to the Queen, to the G20, which higher authority, the G8, that's even higher authority. Right. Either, and this is like true logic gate philosophy, it has to be A or B, it's binary. This is binary 1 or 0. Either taxation and interaction with the state is completely voluntary, or I'm a slave. Let me say that again. Either all taxation, all interaction, all law is 100% voluntary, or you're a slave. And it's as simple as that. And yeah, governments consider everyone slaves. I've just proven the point there. Because governments, they will not ever say that law and tax is voluntary, because then they couldn't keep their criminal cartel going. And so, on paper, we're all slaves, but I'm happy enough to say for myself, and I'm sure I'm speaking for you too, that we know we're not slaves. We know we are something far bigger than that. I'll use a metaphor. 10,000 years ago, if I sat down in the middle of some African plain and did whatever people 10,000 years ago did, there's a very big chance, if I'm not careful, that a saber-toothed tiger will grab me by the neck and that's the end of me, because you're not clever, you're not wary. You know, we're in a Darwinian natural selection world after all. Because we don't have lions and tigers and monsters so readily trying to attack us, it's become more abstract and mathematical. There's the state, there's the police, there's law, there's traffic wardens. These are the new kind of predatory, mathematical, like kind of thought complexes that are like these, yeah, computer programs in our holographic reality that are trying to fuck you up, and you have to be clever. And a saber-toothed tiger will think you're a meal, but you don't have to consider yourself a meal. And the state does think you're a slave, but you're not a slave. It's how you auto-define yourself. Actually, I don't need to add yourself. If I say auto-define, that already means yourself. Okay, it's how you auto-define. Yeah. From what I understand from the term straw man or legal fiction is that when you're born, there's a piece of paper, a certificate, which is like a kind of piece of stock, you know, with a number, your name and capitals, and that is your legal fiction for life. And so when people want to sue you or they want to employ you, that's the legalese they use behind it. And I've seen a few there's a good cartoon. Is it Meet Your Straw Man? Have you seen Meet Your Straw Man? A good cartoon. Don't get me wrong, I think the research I've done into the free man on the land movement has educated me and empowered me a lot more than if I'd not read it. But I did see it for what it was at the start. It's another group of people who have latched on to what they believe is their way to bring down the system, and they push it like a religion. And as someone who hates paperwork, like all my rants on YouTube are unscripted, apart from the ones where I'm obviously with a piece of paper reading, you know, it was like 2 of them out of 500. You know, I can see, you know, where they're getting at, but the free man on the land movement, in my opinion, just like many other resistance groups, has an element of truth and like ability to fight back, but then they get lost in their own rhetoric, their own bureaucracy, their own, in this case, in the Freemen, their own paperwork. Black's Law Dictionary. What the fuck? I'm not going to fucking buy Black's Law Dictionary and learn the kind of language of the bad guys, but the establishment, the state. For me, you know, that which you put your attention to will always persist. I mean, sorry to bring up quantum mechanics again, but you lock reality. There's something called the quantum probability principle and here's where things get very interesting. The all possible worlds hypothesis, the multiverse theory, dictates that everything that could potentially happening is happening somewhere, but there's a quantum probability spectrum that things are more likely to happen. Like when I left the kitchen, the table didn't disappear. Well, I think the table's still there, and it's probably still there, because the vast majority of the chance is that the table's still there. And the same with, in fact, can we cut? I've got no idea where I'm going with this. No idea. Again, what the fuck?
I'm not going to press stop.
All right,
Keep
that's
it-
okay. That might be a nice blooper. Might be a nice blooper for you. Like,
Yeah,
what the
nice.
fuck? Tables and quantum physics.
You're basically going down the route about that. I mean, in a sense of cause and simulation theory, but that whole proverb about that if you close a door, does a room exist?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, sorry, I'm back on track. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
So, like, basically, if you watch Disney cartoons and you've got sex on your mind, you'll find cocks everywhere. You'll find cocks on Minnie Mouse's dress, which I saw on Facebook this morning. On a Coca-Cola advert, you'll find cocks in the ice cube. And so basically, what you put your attention to, you will create more of a nightmare for yourself. And I think the Freeman on the land people will, what they're doing is they're reinforcing the power of the law and the paperwork and the bureaucracy and the abstraction and the fucking hatred of it, because we're cavemen. We haven't changed from our genes from 40,000 years ago. We're still cavemen. And to kind of like have to fight your freedom instead of like clubbing someone across the face, but to have to like spend months in court, and I don't know. I just think it's not the right way to freedom. But I have learned a lot of good things in terms of what my basic rights are. I wouldn't have, without the freedom and the land movement, I wouldn't have found out so much about the street law, Section 5, public order, breach of the peace, Section 4, Section 60, all these things which are very relevant to me as a kind of troublemaking anarchist in the street. I wouldn't have known my rights. And if I can say to the viewer, all you need to really read for success, and throw out all your Freeman on the land things, like get your refund of your £500 for that Freeman on the land conference, which they promise you to educate. But all you need to read, Article 5 of the European Convention on Human Rights, and funnily enough, Section 5 of PACE, the police handbook. Those two things, you will know everything you need to know about your rights as a human being. Everything else is bureaucracy and bullshit. And that's just my opinion, man. But it is my opinion.